Hey, folks, welcome to the Nurse Mark and the Green Nurse podcast.
Where we bring you hope and inspiration for growth and healing. We are here to change the dialogue around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
You know, Sherri, we often talk about things that people don't want to talk about. You know, they're really important to talk about, though, because we need to discuss them to decrease the stigma for healing.
Absolutely. And you know, Mark, 2021 is the year of the nurse and midwife, and we have been highlighting all year long and illuminating health professionals and cannabis nurses as we are truly in revolutionary times where we are changing how we approach and take care of patients.
Yes. You know, we all don't wake up one day and decide to enter the cannabis industry. There's usually a compelling story associated with that. And you know what makes someone enter into the cannabis space as a nurse, Sherri? Please, would you introduce our guest for this evening?
Oh my God, I would be more than happy to. So I'm so excited to introduce Vanessa Cruz. She is a cannabis nurse, end of life doula, home funeral guide, and a cannabis assisted psychedelic guide. We're going to talk a lot about that in a minute. So Vanessa guides clients with plant medicine to transform. Am I buzzing? Is there a weird?
You're good. You're good. You were a little poppy there for a second, but you're back, babe. You're back.
Okay. Rewind. We're going to start over. So Vanessa Cruz is a cannabis nurse, end of life doula, home funeral guide, and a cannabis assisted psychedelic guide. So Vanessa guides clients to use plant medicine to transform life here and into the next through education, advocacy, coaching, and sacred space. Vanessa is a member of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community and serves to aid marginalized individuals gain access and have choice in therapeutic modalities, spirituality, plant medicines, and mental well-being. Vanessa, it's such an honor to welcome you here. I'm so excited to have you on the show and all of the, like we call it, AFA work that you're doing in our communities with cannabis and end of life. So really welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah. So we got a ton to talk about tonight. I mean, your story is pretty compelling, lots of questions. And of course, we're going to, share, you're one of the new nurses on the platform going to be doing these cannabis guided psychedelic journeys. So we're going to get into a little bit about that since we've had the experience. So seriously, when you don't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to be a cannabis nurse. Right. So what led you? What compelled you? Like, what was it? What was what lit the fire under your bum to go forward with it?
Well, cannabis has always been a part of my life in one way or the other, since my early adulthood. Cannabis was part of my life. And then when living in Colorado, when cannabis became legalized for medicinal use, I was a home health nurse and I started having patients with symptoms like extreme nausea, pain, and the medications just weren't working. And they had been hearing about medical cannabis and just started asking questions. And at that time, I had, personal use experience, but I didn't have enough experience with the plant to be able to provide them with education. So that led me on my journey to say, hey, I'm in a state, this is going to continue to grow, the legalization, and I need to know the information to be able to provide patients so that they can use the medicine safely and effectively. And that's what led me down that road.
Oh, wow. Very good. So stigma.
Mm-hmm.
How did you have to work through issues with stigma? I know I did.
I did. I remember specifically having one home care patient that the husband was just begging for some relief for his wife. She had horrible arthritis, was in pain all the time, had really no quality of life. The medication made her nauseous. And what can I do? And so I said, let's look at some options. This was still early on where I was just learning about cannabis as medicine. And I said, let's look at some options. You know, there are ways that you can get clean, safe medicine. Let's see what we can do about that. And I had another nurse that saw them regularly. They inquired to her about that, and she was really upset. She called me up. It was like, why are you encouraging, you know, illicit drug use and this, that, and you know, I'm like, you know, it's illegal in the state for medicinal use. She has typical symptoms that would be alleviated or could be alleviated by using cannabis. Why not try, you know, an alternative when it's obvious the medication's not working? And so, yeah, being able to advocate for people and still deal with the stigma. I mean, it was a big, you know, a big deal. Everybody started talking about it in the office, and it was like, why is Vanessa encouraging weed? And so, yeah, just having to overcome those barriers and just keep talking about it. Just keep talking about it.
It's that education, right? It's
right.
Continually educating people until they get on board. Speaking about education, what the heck is an end-of-life doula? I have, like, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. I might want to have one. So
yeah, no, I'm definitely. I'll tell you, I'm definitely interested in learning about that, doing a hospice nursing. So I think it's a really great topic.
Hospice has been my thing. I loved hospice forever. So
yes, a lot of us, that's where our experience with end of life, you know, we start to experience that if with the hospice spectrum. So I was also a hospice nurse, and being able to go in and support the family, you know, 1 day a week for 1 hour, maybe a couple of hours, just wasn't enough. I could tell that families needed more support. And we also did where we had continuous care if they were, you know, in acute phases of dying or symptomatic, to where we would do 12-hour shifts in the home. But again, it was more supporting that patient through their acute process rather than providing support for them and their family. And at this point, you know, they're already kind of pretty far along in the process where it's imminent, pretty close. So end of life doula is, again, providing education, encouraging people to talk about death in the first place, because nobody wants to talk about it. And if you don't talk about it, you can't plan for it. And if you can't plan for it, something happens and your family doesn't know what you wanted, how you want it, or even where to begin with that process. So yes, all the time. Go ahead.
You know, a lot of people are going through that right now, you know, and how do you have those conversations? And, you know, like we said, we talk about things that people don't like to talk about. Right. And death is one of them. So one of the most important things that I'm going through it right now with my own family. So Mom, if you're watching, I love you, but I might be talking about you for a few minutes.
You know,
it's because it's the truth. Is these stories is what helps.
I try to have the conversation too, but it's tough. You're right. People just don't want to talk about it. It's like, if you ignore it, you're going to live forever.
Exactly. If you talk about death, it's going to happen tomorrow. You know, that's kind of how people.
That's what I told them. I said, it's more than just having all of your affairs in order. It's more than, you know, it's where do you want to take your last breath?
Right.
So I asked that to my mom and my stepdad, you know, because if you want to take your last breath in the home, we need to set up the home so you can take your last breath in the home. Right. And those conversations are really, really hard, because I looked around her house and I go, guess what? There's no way that anyone will be able to take care of you in this house. So we need to find a space that you can. And so she was like, what? And then I remember my stepdad. So if you guys are watching, I still love you. My stepdad goes, you're treating us like we're old. like, you're 80. You're 80.
You got to have the conversation. It's important stuff.
You know,
it's another one of those stigmatized things. Yeah,
that's it. It's about love, and it's about, you know, it just said, if I would be a bad daughter if I didn't have this conversation with you. I would feel guilty once you kicked if we didn't talk about this, and I wasn't able to help you to make your wishes come true at the end of life. Yeah. And the biggest thing I said too is when you're birthing life into this human world, what do? We plan for it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we plan for birthing ourselves into the unseen world?
Exactly. Yes, you should have an exit plan, right?
Yeah.
And
An
it
exit
doesn't
strategy.
It's an exit
Exactly.
strategy, right?
Exit
We're
party.
talking business, we're talking life. I mean, you need an exit strategy. So
Exactly.
a doula, that's really cool. So you're spending more time with the family, establishing that relationship and providing that support than what would normally be covered under the hospice benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. So outside of that, helping them plan, vigils at home if they want, educating again, because a lot of people don't realize that home funerals, so moving into our little
Yeah,
next thing there,
next
people don't
question
realize
was.
home funerals are legal and
Yeah.
that you can actually bring somebody home, even if they, pass in a facility or wherever they at, you can bring them home and you can vigil at home. You can keep them at home for that grieving process.
Yeah.
And that's really important, specifically
It
for
is.
the grieving process,
Well, think about it. That used to be the traditional
Mhm.
thing to
It
do.
did.
You would bring your
Yeah.
loved ones home and you would have the wake in the front parlor. Like
Yeah.
they'd be there and everybody
Propped
else,
up with
neighbors and everybody'd
photos.
show up,
Yeah.
and then it became big business and a
Right.
very highly regulated big business.
Right.
And so I did not know that I'm learning so much. I want a
I didn't
doula.
either.
And now, I want a home funeral.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Figure home births. Think about it.
Right.
People birth into the home.
Absolutely.
It's the
My
same.
daughter had my
Exactly.
last grandson home birth.
Yeah.
All we're doing is birthing into another realm. That's
Yep.
it.
Yes.
Leaving this meat soup behind and
Yep.
diving into the unseen world. How
Right.
cool is that?
Yes.
Right?
Love
And
it.
then adding cannabis in to that.
Yeah.
You
so
know,
Right.
let's
How
talk
about this?
it.
420 funerals.
420 funerals,
Yeah.
home funerals.
Right?
Yeah.
So using cannabis as alternative medicines, at that state, but I also, you can use cannabis to help with
Right. End of
legacy
life.
work, not just end of life. People get so stuck in their illness or whatever they're going through at that end of life phase that they forget, or they don't even think about, what do I want to leave behind? What do I want to tell my family? What are the stories that I haven't told anybody that I want to pass on? And cannabis allows you to be able to do some of that legacy work and forget, I've always remembered the phrase respite from their suffering. Like, cannabis can provide you a respite from the suffering, even if it's just for a little bit, so you can think about those other things. And then you can say, hey, what do I want to leave behind? I encourage family members to start asking them questions, recording stories, videotaping.
I did.
Those are
I started doing that, Vanessa.
all things that,
I
are
recorded
important to pass
my
on that people
uncle.
don't think about.
Well, you know what? You just gave me some great ideas.
I'm
Mom,
telling you, it's a
gonna
great idea. My mom passed away and she took stories with her that,
Right.
I know limited pieces of,
Right.
but she had a rich history that was handed down orally from her
Yes.
grandparents, right?
Yes.
That's missing now. So after she passed away, I made it a point to get with my aunt and my uncle and to hear their story about that, my father's side of the family. So it was good. It was really good.
It's super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cannabis can help with that.
It can.
So just curious, have you done one of these? Can you describe like what it's like to have a home funeral?
I haven't had the opportunity to yet do a home funeral myself, but I have been through enough like training and video training and seeing people actually do it to know what to do. So, it's the same thing as you would do in a hospital setting and then moving into the funeral home setting. When they do pass away at home, if that's where they're at, you prepare the body, and being able to do that at home, you have much more, intimacy with the family, and that's such an intimate time, just to be able to be with somebody in their final, take their final breaths, prepare their body, get them set up, sit there with them, talk about the stories, listen to their favorite music, and, take that time, that sacred time to prepare their body, wash them, grieve for them, you know, share that with your other family members if that's what you choose to do. It's such an important part of the grieving process. And so I really hope soon to be able to get the opportunity, especially, you know, with then COVID hit, nobody was even able to see their loved ones or go have a funeral, or, you know, they were doing services by Zoom, and how impersonal was that? So, you know, I really would like to offer that as an alternative to traditional funerals. And the cost is greatly reduced when you do a home funeral.
Yeah.
Right.
Heck yeah.
All right.
Potato salad.
Well, I was just gonna. I mean, as nurses, we can be a little crude. So I was gonna say, do they allow them to bury them in the backyard?
They do. You can.
They do.
Yep. So,
No
you know,
way.
and where I live, we have a lot of agricultural and countryside. Like, people have had farmland. It's been generational, and they do have already family plots set up. And if it's already set up, there are, you know, stipulations about how far it has to be away from the home. It can't be from, you know, water sources, those kind of things, but it's legal. So again, that's something else that I will help people figure out. You know, do they want a green burial? Do they want a burial in their own home cemetery? Do they want some type of an alternative burial, besides the regular, you know, put me in a casket and put me in the ground?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. What are the alternatives? I love that we're talking about death. I mean, this is a show about cannabis, and we're cannabis nurses, but we're going down that rabbit hole. Yeah, we're talking about.
Well, it plays in its spots.
You're all gonna die. We're all going.
We are gonna die.
We all have one foot on a banana peel and one foot in the grave.
To live is to die. Yeah. So what are some alternatives? There's more and more green burial spaces being provided across the United States. So this is something where you can be buried in just a, you know, plain pine box, because that's something that's going to biodegrade over time. People will choose to be just buried in a shroud, muslin cotton shroud, and they sell these, and you can, you know, take them out, put them in the ground that way. Green burials also are about, you know, not putting anything into the ground that shouldn't be there. So regular cemetery burials, they have cement placed in, then you have this casket, you have the body that's been preserved, so you have formaldehyde. You know, all of this is not eco-friendly for the earth. So being able to return to the earth as you came, and then there's no headstones. Some of these places will give you GPS coordinates, and you know by your GPS coordinates where your loved one is, and yet they're helping.
All these alternatives. Now, I've seen the one where you can become like part of the ball root system of a tree.
Yeah.
Like, you could be the feeding, you could be the fertilizer for a tree.
Yeah.
I love trees, by the way, and that
isn't that wonderful?
I love that.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
There's a place here in Colorado too that you can do an open burn. They will provide that. And there's
like
also
open burn, like light you on fire burn?
Yes. And you know
like
what? I just saw.
Yeah.
I just saw that Maine legalized doing that in like a Viking ship. Like, you can be lit on fire and put out to sea.
That's so cool.
How many people would really love that? They would.
I think that's really cool. I want to be lit when I die.
Yeah.
Use the arrow like you see in the movies. That you shoot the arrow, it goes in, you're just in the water. Yeah. And then there's one other process that's called, I'd have to remember what it is, but it's basically a hydroalkaline process that cremates you. So instead of an actual burning, it's an alkaline process that cleans everything off. And in the end, when the water is removed, you're left with ash. But it's a
I think that's what happened on the Wizard of Oz to the witch.
Yeah.
Alkaline wash. See, that was way back then they were doing that. See?
Yeah.
1939. They already knew about this. We're just getting back to the old stuff. So,
exactly. It's stuff that was our part of our history.
It is. What's that, Sherri?
So I got to tell you, this is, my mother sent me this, speaking of mothers, and this leads in right to our next topic.
Yes.
What is Cannabis Assisted Psychedelic Guide? So I got this article from my mother. My mother cuts things out. She writes things on there, puts it in an envelope. No note, no nothing.
Yep.
I open it up and this is it.
My friend Jack McGowan used to do that to me. I just get something in the mail and I open it up and it's a piece of a newspaper. It's like, hey, what do you think about this?
Yep. So the article is,
yep,
psychedelics will follow marijuana's path.
Woo!
Okay, and so that is where we're getting into, you know what? Cannabis can be a psychedelic and can be used
as a psychedelic.
Exactly. And so it was really interesting.
For thousands of years, and absolutely.
Yeah. It says it will take time for psychedelics to go from illegal to medical use only to broadly legal, but there is overwhelming reason to believe that this process will occur. There you go. Yeah. We know it's going to happen. It's the wave of the future.
Right. But what's so nice is right now, what's nice right now is we have a legal psychedelic, and that's cannabis.
Yep.
We don't have to wait.
More about these psychedelic assisted guided sessions, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Nurse Vanessa.
So with the Cannabis Assisted Psychedelic journey work that I facilitate, it's basically allowing people to, so it's like a step into the psychedelics. If it's somebody is new to psychedelics, they're wanting to experiment to, all the information that's coming out now about how psychedelics are helping with mental health. This is where I'm talking about legacy work, also with end of life fear and anxiety, that kind of thing. All of this can be facilitated through cannabis assisted psychedelic guiding. So, putting them in a space where we have a clear intention, going into it with that intention. And the thing about cannabis is it's so controllable. So, any other psychedelic, if you go in and you go to, a treat or something like that, a retreat, you're in it and you're in it till it's done. And cannabis, it's a little bit easier to control. If it gets a little bit, too much, you can take a break and, we use an iPad, eye covers. You could take that off, take a sip of water. You're able to come down and then go back in and really explore those areas that you're wishing to explore. We also use it in treatment for PTSD. So you can do cannabis assisted journeying for that, and really just having people go into that process to help alleviate some of that pain that they have to deal with those traumatic experiences.
Really powerful stuff. I'm just going to say I had an amazing experience with you. It was a little over a week ago. Yes. We had our session, and I would love for you just to explain like how we went about it, then I can share my experience because it was really cool. So go ahead. I'll let you talk.
Yeah. So it's more of a ceremonial type process. So, we do have some psychedelics that are legal and some that are working to be legal for clinical trials, and they have a whole process for that. But this is more ceremonial, into where we will do a welcoming meditation. We will do an imbibing ceremony, which actually, involves either using the 5 directions as a way to intake the medicine, or we can even hit our chakras as a way of intaking that medicine. Doing a body scan once we've taken the medicine to ground ourselves and really get us comfortable and into the space. And then we listen to music that I will personally select through the journeys, depending on what the energy is like and how that energy is flowing, and just get the music to flow with that energy and guide you through that process. And then other things that you can add in. So you can add in some breath work to make that experience a little bit more intense, or activate that journey process, and then you can use also additional cannabinoids like CBN, CBD to help facilitate those journeys.
Yeah. So yeah, it was, I really enjoyed it. It was very, like I said, it felt like a ceremony. It felt very, I can call it the sacred cannabis journey, because I felt there was a deep intimacy, with the people that were in the group. You explained it really well. And each inhalation that we took, so how you explained it to me is how we reached that psychedelic state of using cannabis was mixing a variety.
Correct. Right? Yes.
It was a combination of indica, sativa, and hybrid. Correct. Right. High levels of THC.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then with go ahead. I'll let you explain, because I really,
go ahead.
Because you would talk about, like, this is what I really love, the ceremonial aspect, because you explained, if say you're using the chakra as an example, you would explain what the chakra is, what it does, and then we would take that inhalation in to circulate the energy through that chakra, right? Yes. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. That's exactly right.
And then the five, what were the five? Because I was deep in it.
So we did do it's like a
north,
7
southeast.
Yeah, so 7 directions. Yep. So we do 7 inhalations for 7 directions. So we do, we start with east, south, west, and north, and then we in between here and now. And with each of those directions, we have, a little ceremonial saying to go along with that. And with this breath, we take this medicine. And once that's due, you can actually take more or less. You can take as much as you want, just to gauge your experience. And that initial experience is basically just, seeing how this works. And then what we'll usually do in let's say an individual session is we would do that initial session and then do a second day session to really allow that person to go in and go deep, because now they know what to expect with the medicine, how to go in and really address that intention that they're going in with.
Yeah. I really liked it.
Yeah.
It was and giving people, like, there was 2 of us that were there, and giving us the opportunity, educating, you can take more than one, you can stop here, but you would continue, like, you just continued to prompt and to guide. It was beautiful. Yeah. It was beautiful. And then going in, I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to come out, but your voice, it was really, and it definitely, I was really, really deep, and it clarified a lot of other internal work that I had done the week before. Yeah. So it was a really, really positive experience. And I got really clear on things, I was working through some stuff. So I think it's
definitely
good work.
Beneficial, nourishing that system, dealing with, getting some internal work done, and just really opening ourselves up to healing.
Yeah. Biopsychosocial spiritual healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And people really do. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
They a lot of people that have done this, that have done other plant medicine journeys, they can have experiences just as, intense as some of those other medicines, if not more. People are really surprised at how much inner work can be done with cannabis. People think, oh, it's just a recreational plant, but you can really, when you use it with intention, create some big work.
Oh, that intention.
So what is your experience like? Have you done these with families, any of these psychedelic journeys with families or patients that have, that are at the end of life? What is their, because I might have you do one with my mother.
Well, yeah, no, definitely. So what I like to do is have the families do it together. Because again, when I say that legacy work, if they're dealing with some end of life anxiety or fear, they like it because their family members there with them. They're kind of all on the same energy wavelength there. But then it also opens up to where you can have that communication. So if it's something that they're kind of struggling with, let's talk about what we want to do. Let's remember some of this legacy work. What are the stories we want to pass on? that's where we really get into it and encourage the family to do it all together, because it creates that sacred space, that community, and they're able to open up, or releases some of that fear, and a lot of work can get done in just a short time, as far as what do we want here? What do you want? What does my loved one want? And then they can really take that to heart, so that there's always times where it can be difficult at the end if there's family members that haven't been involved, or just not everybody's on the same page. And this helps, can help people get on the same page, and really understand why they want what they want at their end of life.
Right. So here's a question. What's a good death?
Well, where's my quote? I have a quote that I like to read, because what is a good death? Let me just pull that up real fast. I should have had this ready.
No, that's all right. That's okay. I just think it's, it is important to talk openly about death. This is a really good conversation. I actually didn't really know what legacy work was until now. So it's bringing, those stories, bringing the information, the stories, the information that you want to pass on and carry on to future generations. Because it's true, we forget.
Yeah. Some families have a family recipe that they've passed on for generations and generations. And, you don't want that to stop. You want to say, hey, I have this from my great, great, great grandmother, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But a quote I like, it says, when a death is good, the room is filled with peace, and all the pain that went before it is forgotten. Where there was mystery, there is knowledge, and where there was fear, there is love. That's what a good death is. If you're able to have that conversation, it's planned. That's the number one thing for the dying loved one, is they worry about what their family is going to deal with. They're so worried about their family. And if you have this in place, everybody's on the same page, they can they can be at peace with making that transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people hold on for days,
days,
because they feel that they have to stay for one particular person, maybe
waiting for that one person to show up. Yes.
Yep.
That is so hard. That is suffering.
It's real. Yeah. And that is suffering. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember bring that whole space to completion, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So here's a question for you. What do you think that nurses bring to the table in the cannabis space? Do you see these, these psychedelic guides and these journeying continuing to evolve in the cannabis space? Like, what do you think that nurses bring?
I definitely do. Especially us as cannabis nurses, and those that are coming on or are interested in cannabis nursing. We have a knowledge that not everybody is familiar with or even knows what to do with. And how do we use that? We educate, we advocate. And in these spaces, again, nurses being one of the most trusted professions, that right away puts people at ease, knowing that they're going to be in a safe space and a safe container. And we have that, personability, that bedside manner, that we can put people and make them feel comfortable and open up and really do the work that they want to do, knowing that they have a nurse there with them. So in any cannabis education nursing role, our number one role is being a patient advocate. So
always yeah, education and advocacy. You're
advocacy,
right.
And what better way than advocating, even especially in these times, or nowadays, we know so much more so for mental health, and this is another piece of that mental health care.
Yep, mental health is what did you say? What did they say about depression in 2030?
So I quote this a lot. The World Health Organization says that depression will be, by the year 2030, the largest global healthcare burden.
Yeah.
That means there's going to be a lot of people who are suffering from depression.
And that's why we need nurses to use these plant medicines. Because
it's so, isn't it funny that the universe provides, right? All of a sudden there's this push towards depression and you know, and mental
Anxiety.
health issues, and all of a sudden the psychedelics pop back in, plant
Renaissance.
medicine,
Yes.
just at the right time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge paradigm shift we're in right now, right?
Yes.
Future of healthcare is patient empowerment. And that's what we're doing here as
Yes.
cannabis nurses at the Green Nurse. We're here to educate and empower you to all make choices that are best for you. So the event, we have an event. We just planned this, really excited. We just popped it up. If you all are watching, go check the events at the Green Nurse. Cannabis Nurse Vanessa is going to be doing a sacred cannabis psychedelic guided session on Sunday, June 13th, which is going to be amazing. The Eventbrite link is right up. We're accepting 4 to 6 people, 6 at the maximum, and we would love to have you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. It's a great introductory, you know, into just a lot of different things. You know, if you, and you know, you need to have your own cannabis. There are directions that will be sent to you in an email if you're interested in exploring this work with Cannabis Nurse Vanessa.
Yeah, so exciting.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and we're gonna continue to do these. I think we said we were going to do them monthly, but we have our first date. Oh, we have our first 2 dates, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I know June 13th was the July one.
One of those.
Of course.
Why not? Something new.
Something new, something different. Absolutely.
So,
Vanessa, where can people find you? Where I put in the thing. You know, you've got an Instagram account.
Yes.
Where can people find you? Do you have a website? Because I didn't.
I don't have a website yet. I had one, but I'm getting it revamped, so I don't have that yet. But you can contact me. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, you'll be on our website.
Okay.
Providers.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah.
So, you know, as you add skills in, you got to revamp things. So definitely on Instagram, traditional holistic care, or even under my name, Vanessa Cruz. I do have a email address. So consultingthc@gmail.com.
Nice.
Reach out to me. I will send out information, and I will have a website soon where we'll be able to have the information available. You could schedule, and hopefully we'll be able to do more sacred journeying together.
Let's
offer that.
do as many as we can.
Yeah.
As many as we can. We want everyone to feel good. We are here truly to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hope, inspiration, growth, and healing. And the place that starts is when you go within. You know, go within, change how you look at the world, and the world you look at changes.
Yes.
For sure.
That's right. That's right.
So this has been an awesome show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate being here.
Yeah. And so, folks, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening in. You know, I have to hear it before I hear it every morning. I have to hear it just before I go to bed too. Hey, Sherri, what's it all about?
I love it. It's my favorite thing to say, and it's so cheesy and corny, but I'm going to say it every day until the day I die. It is all about living your best life and helping others do the same. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We love you.
Yeah, love you. Thanks, Nurse Vanessa.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.